Otter Rock Marine Reserve is home to a fragile mosaic of life that tells the story of ocean health. From its fan of offshore islands cropping out of jagged, wave-cut reefs hidden beneath the surf, to its weather-sculpted sandstone headlands peppered with colorful tide pools, Otter Rock Marine Reserve hosts incredible biodiversity. A plethora of plants and animals, all shapes and sizes, live, forage, and breed in and around this corner of the Oregon coast.
Oregon Marine Reserves are areas in the ocean that have been set aside for conservation and scientific research, and they involve local community members working with state decision makers to site the areas in areas that would provide ecological benefits, but also minimize any social or economic impacts to coastal communities. There's no fishing and no ocean development allowed in the marine reserve areas, and Otter Rock is one of the 5 marine reserve states.
Fishing feeds us on both the literal level, but also provides us with a sense of identity, both as communities and individuals. It provides hardworking coastal Oregonians with jobs. It connects communities to the place. My family's made their lives along the same 40-mile stretch of coastline since 1847. My late uncle Lars Robison was responsible for the proposal that established a pilot location for a marine reserve at Otter Rock. Got it checked off by the majority of members of the fishing community, both here and elsewhere, to determine that that was an area that was all right to sacrifice. So historically, engagement between the fishing community and Otter Rock as a marine reserve was in order to prevent losing larger areas of the ocean.
I've been doing my work here for 12 years now, and part of that is because it is a living laboratory. It's one of the sites where we as scientists have an incredible opportunity to answer some of the mysteries that exist off our coast. Surprisingly, there's a lot that we don't know about who's living underneath the water. Otter Rock is an incredible place to study those species. My research here in the Otter Rock Marine Reserve looks at juvenile fish, the early life stage of fish, and have a really cool strategy where adults release these larvae that then travel in the open ocean for months, and then they come back and settle to the near shore. My work is looking at who the species are that are coming in, when they come in, how many, how likely they are to survive on Oregon's coast. And so that part of the living laboratory is a cool way to understand more about the species that support our ecosystems, and they also support our communities through fisheries and other industry. Our research is very collaborative, though it takes a lot of people to do this work. We partner with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Oregon Coast Aquarium, and we also importantly partner with the fishing community. If it weren't for the knowledge and the expertise and the guidance of our partners who are fishermen, we wouldn't be able to, for example, know how to build the best gear to withstand our conditions, or the best place to find juvenile fish as they're coming into the near shore. One of the key outcomes of our work is that when we see changes in the ocean, like marine heat waves, or changing ocean chemistry, like ocean acidification, we're able to actually see how it impacts the species, and that means better predictions for fisheries, and being able to understand what's happening underwater is just as important as what's happening above the water.
People come here from around the world to come and watch whales. Whales are fascinating because they are like us. They're mammals. They have lungs that breathe air. They nurse their young, but they do it in the water, living in a totally different environment than we do. We have quite a variety that you can see from shore. The closest whale watching boats depart from Depot Bay and from Newport. And this is a great location to come out on the boat, see the Central Oregon coast from a different view. Depending on the time of year, You may see whales migrating. You may see whales here for feeding. Gray whales really like to feed on mysids, little shrimp-like animals that swarm in kelp beds. Otter Rock Marine Reserve is a great place for gray whales to feed. It has large numbers of kelp beds. They have to eat a lot to fatten up for their migrations. A place like Otter Rock Marine Reserve and the whales that we have here along our coast can really inspire people to make a connection to the natural world. And we hope that when they go home to whatever is home for them, that they take that with them, that connection to nature and that love for it and wanting to nurture it.
We have everything from our shorebirds and seabirds to the organisms, the urchins and the harbor seal. We have awesome kelp forest here, but we have this really great shelf that allows for channels of water, which allow for urchins and juvenile fish and crab and everything, all in this one little area. Intertidal zone of Otter Rock Marine Reserve is really important because it provides protection for juvenile organisms to have a safe area. As a marine educator, I find Otter Rock a wonderful place for people to come down to see all the diversity of organisms, everything from different kinds of algae and chitons and sponges and tunicates. Otter Rock has a greater diversity in the marine algae than some of the other marine reserves as well. And actually our shoreline is fragile. And we have to keep in mind that this environment, it changes, and we want to be careful of how we handle and how we tread. So one of the ways that we've been able to educate people here in the Marine Reserve is by having a presence down here to help explain to people what the Marine Reserve is and how it's helping us to understand better the dynamics.
Otter Rock is a very unique place. Every time you come here, there's something different to see. So it's always kind of exciting. It's an adventure. As an oceanography student, I often learn about the challenges that the oceans are facing. So having marine reserves are important and mean a lot to me because they're areas where wildlife can refuge, and gives me hope that marine reserves are being enacted and that our society is moving in a direction of having a positive impact on the oceans. Otter Rock Marine Reserve was one of the first marine reserves designated on the Oregon coast. But by 2020, it was the only marine reserve that didn't have a designated group advocating for it. The mission of Friends of Otter Rock Marine Reserve is to promote stewardship and protection and to advocate for the wildlife that call this marine reserve home. Friends of Otter Rock is spreading awareness about the importance of marine reserves and to bring together marine educators, scientists, students like myself. We have volunteers and paid high school interns that provide interpretive programming to visitors that come to the Marine Reserve. Community members that are involved in community science projects through the Marine Reserve, such as sea star surveys and seabird nest monitoring. And we have collaborations with organizations such as the Oregon Coast Aquarium and Lincoln City Audubon, Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and STEM Hub that'll continue the protection of marine reserves for future generations. Friends of Otter Rock will continue to enrich the visitor experience through our interpretive programming at Otter Rock Marine Reserve. We have volunteers of all ages, and we're trying to create a lasting legacy for the continued protection of this incredible location.
Oregon's marine reserves are helping connect people to what lies underneath the surface off the Oregon coast. Oregon's marine reserves are a reminder that Oregon doesn't stop at the beach.
I hope that everybody who comes down here walks away learning something new.
And we hope that our efforts will lead to the general public understanding the importance of their role in stewardship and the protection of natural environments.
My favorite quote is by Sylvia Earle. You have to love it before you are moved to save it.